Cafe, your podcasting source of great crime, suspense, and thriller writing. I'm your host, Debbi Mack. Before I bring on my guest, I'll just remind you that the Crime Cafe has 2 ebooks for sale, the 9-book box set and the short story anthology. You can find the buy links for both on my website, debbimack.com, under the Crime Cafe link. You can also get a free copy of either book if you become a Patreon supporter. You'll get that and much more if you support the podcast on Patreon, along with our eternal gratitude for doing so. But first, let me put in a good word for Blueberry Podcasting. I'm a Blueberry affiliate, but that's not the only reason I'm telling you this. I've been using Blueberry Podcasting as my hosting service for my podcast for years, and it's one of the best decisions I ever made. They give great customer service. You're in complete control of your own podcast. You can run it from your own website, and it just takes a lot of the work out of podcasting for me. I find for that reason that it's a company that I can get behind 100% and say, you should try this. Try Blueberry. It doesn't require a long-term contract, and it's just a great company, period. And it also has free technical support by email, video, and phone. So you can get a human being there. Isn't that nice? Hi, everyone. My guest today is a doctor who writes medical thrillers with a high-tech edge. Author of The Algorithm Will See You Now and The Committee Will Kill You Now, it's a pleasure to introduce my guest, Jennifer Lycette. Hi, Jennifer. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm pleased to have you on. Believe me, I'm always pleased to hear from the medical community as well as medical writers, even though I can't watch medical shows to save my life anymore. They just make me too tense. Um, Thank you so much for being with us today. I get the feeling from the titles of your books that you might have the tiniest bit of concern about how technology could affect or is affecting the practice of medicine. Is that
Yes, I think that's fair to say. I enjoy using fiction to explore complicated scenarios, both, from the technology and the ethical standpoint. So,
mm, I can appreciate that. Yeah, the ethical standpoint is often a really great place to find those conflicts that you can use in fiction. Um, the titles alone almost sell the books, if you ask me, but they are so intriguing. What prompted you to start writing these stories in particular?
Gosh, that's such a good question. So I can't really identify any one moment, but I started writing the first one, which was Algorithm, about 10 years ago. And I had started writing creative nonfiction as sort of a professional outlet. And I've written some essays about that, like going through professional burnout and discovering writing. As I think I've heard other authors on your show talk about, and for a lot of us, I think writing is in some ways some form of therapy. And
Hmm.
so I was really enjoying that writing and connecting with colleagues. And then I had this idea that I wanted to reach people outside of medicine. And so I think, like a lot of new authors, I didn't know how hard it would be to write a novel, but I sort of grew up reading a lot of thrillers and medical thrillers, Robin Cook and all this, and I thought, well, maybe I could write a medical thriller. And so I just thought of the idea and started writing one day.
They just come to you, yeah.
Yes.
They really do. They both take place in Seattle, I noticed.
Yes.
But it's not the same protagonist. I assume, is it the same hospital or different hospitals?
Yeah, so it's different hospitals and different protagonists, but they are connected. So they each can be read as standalones, but the second book, The Committee, is actually a prequel, like going back 30 years, to tell the story of the antagonist and algorithm. So I think just all the character work I did to develop her, and there's another minor character that as I was writing algorithm, I just kind of was like, I think these two had a relationship in the past, but that's just, like one line in algorithm. And so it just like got in my head and I was like, I want to write their story. And so I went back and wrote, so uh they're like middle age in algorithm, and then I went back and wrote when they were young residents in Seattle, and just to kind of tell more of the story of how the antagonist, whose name is Dr. Maura Maddox, how she ended up being the person she is in algorithm.
That's really interesting. I love the way you went back and did backstory in a prequel. That's fantastic. That's an excellent approach because so often we get to know our protagonists better as we write.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes. There was all this that didn't end up on the page in algorithm, and I was like, I think I have a whole an additional book here.
How I wrote the book, some algorithm.
Yes.
This is what I went through. Let's see. What is it about Seattle that made you choose that as the setting?
That's a great question. So I think a lot of it was just it's near and dear to my heart because that's where I went to medical school. And I think also I wanted to write something, a place I was familiar with, even though I don't live there anymore. And I think also in a lot of audiences' minds, just because of some of the other like media and shows and things, like there's kind of a link between Seattle and
Yeah,
medical and
that's right. I keep forgetting about that show that's named after a book, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah, I did a little research on you actually. I noticed that you are originally from Alaska.
Yes,
I
very
thought that
true.
was
I
fascinating. Um, and you went to medical school at a school that would take pe students from places that did not have medical schools in their state. I thought that that was very unique and interesting.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So I went to University of Washington Medical School, but they have a program called WWAMI that stands for Washington, Wyoming, Alaska, Montana, and Idaho. And so those states don't have their own medical schools, so they um, basically have a certain number of applicant spots for each of those states because they want to hopefully encourage graduating doctors to go back and practice in those states or in more rural environments. So, yeah.
I I can't help but be reminded of the show Northern Exposure. Did you ever see that?
You know, I have to admit, I never watched the whole series, but yes, I've seen some episodes, yeah, back some time ago, I guess now.
Yeah, that was a very amusing look at Alaska and somebody who is from a very non-Alaska place, as I can speak to from experience, having lived in New York.
Yeah.
Oh boy, going to Alaska from New York would be quite the shock.
I think
Um,
so.
yeah, and for a while you had a rural medical practice in Astoria, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oregon,
So
yeah.
I didn't end up going to practice in Alaska, although I did do some clinical rotations up there when I was in training. But I did practice for some years in rural Oregon.
Yeah, yeah. So that must have been quite an experience dealing with rural medicine. I mean, some of the stuff in the things that you talked about in your interview were just like, yeah, that's the way it is out there. Not everybody has equal opportunity, equal access to good medical treatment, or know the right ways to take care of themselves.
Yeah, I think that certainly influenced my book idea with algorithm because I had previously worked in a metro practice, and even though I grew up in Alaska, I grew up in Anchorage, which is a fairly moderate-sized city. And so I think I was a bit naive about some of the limitations of living in non-urban areas.
Mm.
And talking with colleagues about, like you said, like equal access and even equal access to technology, like, um, I don't want to necessarily go into like any like deep dives about AI or anything. I think people are probably a bit tired of that, but
Yeah.
even just for example, I had many patients who didn't have internet. So even like checking the patient portal to check their appointment, they didn't have that. And so just, really basic like that, things that I think um maybe when at least I know for me, like li living somewhere where that's taken for granted, that just um, experiencing that and how we need to make sure we're still, yeah, making sure everybody has equal access and equity. It's not as straightforward as it at first seems, I think, even in the US.
Yeah, definitely. Um, and now you're in British Columbia and
Yeah.
you work you have a medical practice there, I assume?
Yes, I am still practicing. I'm a medical oncologist, so I still practice, and so yeah, a lot of writing happens on weekends, but
I was going to ask you about your
okay.
writing routine.
Yeah.
Do you have like a set number of hours you like to write or a time you
Um,
like to write?
I would say not typically. There are times when I'm drafting that if I'm really like on a good streak, I will try to just kind of hold myself to like 1,000 words a day. But the reality is just like there are some evenings I come home from work and I have enough energy to write, and then other times I don't. And so I just have to tell myself that's okay. And then I just write on the weekends. So
Yeah.
I tend to be someone who just might do a really big chunk on one day and then not anything for some days. So I'm probably not a good role model.
Oh, I always figure everybody has their own way, you know? Some people are like cranking out 20,000 words a day, and
Yeah,
then other people are just like, I write whenever I can.
yeah, yeah,
So it's like whatever works for you, works for
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Um, what sort of books do you tend to gravitate toward reading?
Oh gosh, I actually read pretty much across all genres, except I will say I don't tend to like horror, and I like thrillers obviously, but I don't tend to like real um violent or serial killer type. uh, but often I actually, unless I'm reading like for writing research, I tend to actually gravitate these days toward lighter, like cozy fiction.
I get it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can kind of get it. Yeah. I've been reading some very funny mysteries lately.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, these are a relief, a
yeah.
relief from the stress of everything.
Very true.
Um,
Yes, I
yes.
find that too.
Okay, I have to ask, are you a big fan of The Pit?
Uh, so it's so funny you would
As
ask
everybody
that.
says?
Um, so like you kind of mentioned a little while ago, so I will admit, like I don't watch medical shows because it's for me, it's like, being at work. And
Yes.
so I have family members that are huge fans of The Pit. And back, when I was in training and ER was the big show, I did watch that. That was probably the last one I watched because then as I got farther along in my training, it just, like we were just talking about with reading, like I don't actually watch a lot of shows, so if I make time for a show, it's usually something just kind of like comedy or light or so. Um so I feel like I would be a fan of The Pit if I watched it, and I know I'd probably immediately get sucked into it as my family members try to get me to, but I'm just like, oh no, I just, had 12 hours of that today.
That's right. Yeah, this is too much like reality. Well, that's a change for television, actually. I'm not sure whether that's good or bad, but yeah, yeah. I keep hearing wonderful things about it.
Yeah, me too.
Are you working on anything now in terms of books, projects?
Yeah, so I actually so I'm very slow drafter and reviser. So each of my books, from like concept to publication like took about 3 years. So I've been working on something for the past few years, and I am to the point where I think it's getting close. So it's not in this world, it's something new. It is uh I guess I'll call it like a speculative thriller, but it's not necessarily a medical thriller. So I was kind of maybe trying to write something a little more mainstream, but it's yeah, almost there, not quite out there. So I feel like I'm not ready to put it out there, but maybe soon.
So a thriller that isn't as medical or is somewhat medical?
Yeah, so I would say it's like medically adjacent, but it's
Medically
yeah, the
adjacent.
characters are not healthcare professionals or anything like that. So
Ah, interesting. Let's see. So a lot of people would like to write but don't know how to get started. What advice would you give to encourage these people to get started? What would you say to them?
yeah, so a couple of things, I guess. I guess the first thing would be just write, even if it's for yourself, because um I mean, unless you come from a background of writing, like for me, which I did not, like you have to just kind of dive in, and then you'll learn from your mistakes. And I think also getting a supportive community around you. I was very fortunate that after I had been writing algorithm for about a year, I um, entered a contest that doesn't exist anymore, but some people might remember it, called Pitch Wars. And I got assigned a mentor. And then through that, I met other writers. And then some of them I'm still in touch with. And like we have an online writing group. And I realized for that year, I was just trying to do it on my own, like how much better it is now to have the support. And then also, when you connect with other writers like that, you realize that everyone else, even those who are successfully published, like they go through rejections and doubt and all those things, like it's so you don't feel so alone. So I think
Exactly.
um just I think a lot of opportunities nowadays, like for online writing groups, or a lot of like local libraries have like drop-in writing groups, and might be a way to that you can connect if you know you're just starting like out of the blue, like I did, without really knowing anyone or knowing what you're doing. But
Yeah, it can often start with a local writing group or
yeah,
organization. I know that's
yeah,
the way it started for me. I think
yeah,
it
absolutely.
really probably started with a class I took, actually,
Yeah,
at a community college. That's really where it kind of started.
yeah,
And people in the class got together and formed a writers group, of course.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's what writers tend to do. They form these little
Yep.
groups. They prop each other up.
Yes.
Let's see. What's the best writing advice you've ever gotten?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. I've got to think for a minute. I think probably the best advice, which is not unique and I think kind of out there a lot, is just which is really hard sometimes, but like don't get so attached. Like sometimes one of the hardest things is like if something isn't working in your story, but it's like your favorite thing, or maybe the thing that you thought was going to be the best thing, and then it's just not working, and you just have to cut it, and that's okay. But I think that's another thing, like with meeting other writers, is getting that feedback and like beta reading. And I think too, I guess this would be a second thing with advice would be like when you get feedback, like take some time to process it, because I've found for myself so many times, like when I first read through it, everything feels negative. I think just because it all feels so personal. So then I usually will skim it and then I'll set it aside, and then I'll come back a couple days later and I'll look at it again. And then it's like your brain works better or something. Like then I'm like, oh, well, this actually wasn't negative at all. Like this was really positive. This is really helpful. So I think just like taking time to process that kind of feedback, and knowing kind of that I think a lot of our brains kind of work that way as writers. We just tend to see the negative first. So
Yeah, it is hard sometimes. And especially, I don't know what it is about screenwriting, but boy, that is a tough arena to impress anybody in. Let's see. Is there anything else that you'd like to cover that we haven't talked about?
oh gosh,
Is there anything you want to talk about?
not that I can think of. I'd just appreciate so much that you invited me on, and it's just so fun to meet you again. Like just I think the writing community is just one big, large, supportive community, which is so wonderful. So, um, I guess to anyone out there who's maybe feeling stuck, just keep writing.
That's right. Right on. Thank you. Those are great words to end with. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate you being here, Jennifer. Thanks.
Thanks again for having me. It was fun.
It was my pleasure, believe me. And to everyone who is supporting the Crime Cafe on Patreon and Substack, I want to thank you so much. To everyone who's listening, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review. They do help. Until next time, when my guest will be Caleb Husman, take care and happy reading. Be seeing you.